course, it's a pleasure for us. And to start things off, I mean, how are you? How's preparation for Tokyo 2021 been going for you after Budapest?
Yeah, it's been really good. I'm back in my home state of Tennessee. I'm in Knoxville. And it's been good. Things have definitely ramped up since Budapest. A lot harder training and some more long course focused practices, but we're just kind of buckling down and getting ready to the tapering period is getting here shortly. So I'm very excited for that.
Yeah, makes sense. Out of pure interest, Madeline, did you train with the NCAA team a lot when you were there before when they were getting ready for NCs, or you were kind of separate?
So my first year as a pro, so before COVID, we did train with the NCAA team and just the whole college team in general. But since COVID, the college has like its own guidelines for we're considered like outsiders since we're not students. So we're not allowed to be in the facilities with the college team. But typically when it's not a COVID time, we do train with them.
Are you missing the team aspect?
I do a little bit, it's always hard during like conference time when, everyone's coming together as a team and tapering and getting ready for two big meets. So I do definitely miss that, but also like ISL this past year gave me like a great opportunity to be a part of a team again. And, I kind of got my fill with that. So it wasn't as hard to miss this year, but I do love my Lady Balls and, it's always hard to not be able to be a part of it anymore.
Of course. Yeah, I can relate. But Madeline, looking ahead of Tokyo 2021, sort of, if you're okay to reveal this, what stage of preparation are you in? Meaning that, are you going to hit the workouts hard for another while? Are you going to start sort of polishing down the technical bit soon? What are the main focuses?
Yeah, definitely. So for me right now, I'm in a kind of a weird spot right now because I actually have a meet. I'm going to the Mission Viejo, California Pro Swim Series meet that's in like a week and a half ish, I believe, maybe a week. And so I'm actually doing a slight drop taper for that because I'm trying to get myself into a better standings going into trials. So I'm kind of in a power / a little bit of resting mode right now, but I imagine after the meet, like we'll kind of transition into more like power type of swimming instead of like just aerobic. And so that's always my favorite part of taper is, getting to go fast with lots of rest and, putting out what you've been training for the past however many months it's been, a years, I guess, you're training for the Olympics. So yeah, I'm really excited for that. And then we'll start tapering down as, trials gets closer.
Makes sense. What about in the gym? How hard do you hit the gym? And like, what other sort of stuff you do? Do you do any single rep maxes, or is it more sort of on the lightweight side, many repetitions?
Yeah, definitely. So our gym is kind of a little bit all over the place, actually. We use a lot of different tools in the gym. We use, I don't know if you've ever heard of BFR cuffs, but the blood flow restriction cuffs. Um,
Oh,
yeah, that's really big in our program. Using that. So it basically tricks your body into releasing like the growth hormone that you're trying to get from heavy weights without actually having to lift incredibly heavy. So it doesn't break you down as much. And I have found that I'm able to train a lot faster in the water using that type of, technology. And we also use this program called Push. And it's basically a little sensor that goes on like the bar for if you're doing cleans or squats or deadlifts or something. And it will tell you the velocity that you're moving the bar at. And so you want to aim for different velocities based on what you're going for. So like if you're training strength, then it's going to be a slower velocity because it's going to be a heavier bar. If you're training for power, then it'll be a little bit lighter, a little bit faster. And then usually a week or two before a big meet, we'll do a speed focused time where it'll be, the lightest you go at the fastest you possibly can. So those are like two big things we do in the weight room, but we do like the normal exercises like squats and deadlifts and cleans and, all the little maintenance exercises that you have to do to keep your body healthy too. But yeah, that's mainly what we do.
Wow, the bar velocity thing makes perfect sense. You want to be able to not only move a heavy bar, but you want to move it quick, right?
Oh
Especially
yeah.
if you're swimming.
It's
But
just like trying to hit like pace times in the water. Like you're trying to hit a pace velocity. If you're not, then it's too heavy. And if you're going too fast, then it's too light for that training period. So I'm like a geek with the science side of swimming. So I love stuff like this where you can really like see the numbers and see results.
Maddie, I feel like you're the perfect person to ask this question then. Um, did you know that approximately close to 80% of the Tokyo Frog Team's roster is yet to lift any weights at all?
Really?
I was mind blown from that, and I want to hear your perspective. Do you think it's possible to achieve high result in sprint swimming without ever lifting any weights? I mean, clearly it's possible from the Japanese side, but I would say the sprinters are the guys that actually lift in their team, and when it comes to
Yeah.
anything above 100, they don't really.
Yeah, definitely. I think swimming's tricky with the like strength side of things. I think there's a lot of ways to be strong and get strong besides just lifting weight. You have like the body weight exercises you can do, like even yoga, like there's strength yoga. And I think there's a lot of different ways you can get strong. I think for sprinters, I think it would be hard to be a top tier sprinter without lifting any sort of weight and gaining, that muscle mass because like the way you sprint is by like putting power like on the water and being able to hold the water and move past it. And I think that would be difficult to do without any kind of mass and like weight training behind you. But everyone's different. I've actually toned down my strength training a lot since last year, and I've gotten a lot better in the water. I think there's a perfect balance for everyone of how heavy they should be lifting and how much muscle mass they should be gaining and how that affects how buoyant they are in the water and how strong they are when they're holding the water. So um it doesn't really surprise me. Like everyone's different. And, at this level, like we've all kind of figured out what we need to do to go fast. So that is very interesting. Interesting fact though.
Out of pure interest, last year when you were lifting more heavy, did you feel like your body was getting a little heavy, or did you feel like you were sort of skipping water when you swam?
Yeah. So for me, my issue was I am a gym rat. I love being in the gym. When I'm done swimming, like I will do some sort of lifting. I have kind of a weird body proportion for it, but I just love that instant, gratification you get from lifting. Like you either pick it up or you don't. Like there's not really an in between. And I think for me, I was pushing myself so hard in the weight room for too long, too many times a week that it was just putting like I was digging myself into a hole and I didn't have enough time at the end of the year to come out of it. So I think it really just drained my body and I wasn't able to train as fast as I can now. And like ultimately, like you go to a swim meet, they're not going to ask how much you can squat, it's how fast can you swim. So I had to kind of back off so I could
Which is a
keep
letdown, in
training.
my opinion.
Yes. I had to kind of back off so I could train faster. And, I did notice my legs got very strong, but they were heavy. Like I think anyone can attest to this, especially sprinters. Like you can feel when you've put muscle mass on when you're in just the way you sit in the water. So I've like definitely felt a difference since I stopped lifting so much. But it's completely different for everyone. Like Beryl like she's a big lifter and it works out fantastically for her. So it just kind of depends on the person and what you need.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you, Madeline.
Yeah.
Madeline, since we kind of got into the technicality of training and swimming a little bit, I have one pending question I really want to ask you, but it's
Okay.
kind of going off on a tangent. Madeline, I want to hear your opinion on the current rules around the short axis turn right now. What I'm referring to is the simultaneous double arm touch.
Hmm.
Do you think it is appropriate? And I've heard many opinions now that the rule should be changed. A, because the judge can never tell if your arms are actually touching simultaneously or not. And B, because the rule, people think that it's kind of within the legal terms if the person touches with two hands at some point, at least at some point. Um, do you think the rules around that should change, or are you happy with the way they are now?
That's a great question. I can honestly say I have never even thought about that. But I don't know. I've never personally had an issue with the two-handed touch. I've I don't know. I don't really have a great answer for you on that. I've never had an issue with the two-hand touch. I think if you do it correctly, it can be very fast. And so yeah,
That
that's
is
a
totally valid. Then I guess
yeah,
from your
sorry.
perspective, it
Much
doesn't need
more.
change. No, that's
Yeah.
a perfect answer. Thank you. But Madeline, coming back on track, I want to sort of swing back to Tokyo 2021. Obviously, your main focus is going to be the 100 fly for getting into the Olympics and for the Olympics itself, hopefully. But is there any other events you're thinking to swim? Maybe the 50 free, maybe the 100 free?
hmm I think my main focus is going to be on the 100 fly. Um, the 50 free, like I train for it, but my passion is not necessarily in it, and I'm definitely one of those people who has to like fully get behind something to do well. So I'm definitely like my best chance is going to be the 100 fly. The US has, I mean, phenomenal flyers and freestylers, but the freestyle depth is just incredible. So I think fly is definitely my best shot, and that's definitely what I'm focusing on.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah.
Then I don't feel guilty about this next question. Can I please get your predictions for the podium for Tokyo 2021 for female 100 breast, 100 back, and 100 free?
Oh
It can be.
wow.
It doesn't have to be too precise. Maybe just for the gold medals or just for the events you're comfortable in.
Yeah. Breaststroke will be interesting to say the least. I can't even tell you what it would be at Tokyo because I don't know what it's going to be for the US Olympic team. The 100 breast field like is incredible between like Annie and Molly and Lily. And just there's just so many people who have a shot in that chance. Emily Escobedo, like it'll be a very interesting race.
Benedetta
100
Pilato is in the mix, 15-year-old, right?
Yeah, like it's gonna be that will be crazy. Same with like, oh, that's so hard to pick because I don't even know who's gonna go for the USA. Like backstrokes, an incredibly deep field with Baker and Smoliga and Reagan Smith. And then fly, like right now in the US, like the top 5 flyers are under the age of like 18. Which is crazy. I know all of us pros are like, oh my gosh, what are they feeding these kids? But yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm very curious to see how it all plays out.
Makes sense. Thank you,
Yeah.
Madeline. We'll be watching it with you very carefully. Trust me, we're
Yeah.
interested as well. But sort of last question about the Olympic Games, and then we'll move on a little bit. How confident are you, Madeline, that the Olympic Games are actually going to take place in 2021?
I'm pretty confident they are. I haven't heard anything like besides like people's opinions that they're not happening. They got the torch moving, so I feel like they're going to happen. I think the spectators situation is still up in the air, but I fully believe that they're going to do it this year. Yeah.
Makes sense. Let's hope they do.
Yeah.
It will be huge for swimming. I mean, it would be a huge letdown for swimming if we don't have any Olympic swimming for 8 years.
Yeah, that would be something.
Well, thank you, Madeline. And sort of now I want to talk to you a little bit about the previous ISL season. To start us off, how would you analyze the performance of Energy Standard at Budapest? Were you happy with it? Obviously, you guys were striving for gold, but I mean, second place is still amazing for the season, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say overall, like, I think we had a lot of fun. And I think we did the best we could. But like you said, like we came in the defending champions and we're definitely not like happy with second place and we're gonna be out for blood next year. But yeah, I think I wasn't on the team on Energy the first year, but just like the vibe I got from this year and the people that were on it and the connections that were made, like it was the it was like I felt very like comfortable and welcomed, which was nice. And I kind of almost felt like I was back on my college team, like we all just vibed well together. Everyone knew what they needed to do and they went out and did it. No drama or anything like that. And so I think we are all proud of how we swam, but we definitely want more next year. We're coming next year.
Makes sense. Although I kind of want to see a new team become a winner, so we have a big rivalry. But Energy
Yeah.
Standard is a team of my heart for sure. But Madeline, what about your own performance in the past season of ISL? I mean, for me as a spectator, it was amazing. It's like you were a superstar pretty much. Although I didn't know much about you before this. I mean, you were obviously part of LA Current previously, but um, how would you analyze your performance in ISL 2020?
Yeah, so I think that I this past ISL season was a big like kind of eye opener and confidence boost for me. I didn't swim that well my last few years of college or even my first year as pro. I was on LA Current, but I only swam 2 meets and 2 relays, and I did not do very well on them. And so I definitely wasn't expecting to be on Energy Standard, but quarantine kind of gave me like an eye opener to the type of training I was doing, and we just kind of discovered that I was kind of overdoing it a bit in training. Like I've said this in interviews before, but one of my college coaches used to tell me like, "You're a Ferrari. You can't just sit there and grind your gears and go all day long. Like you have to pick and choose like when you can go fast. Like you're not a pickup truck, you're a Ferrari. You got to put the right gas in and you got to when it's time to go, you go." Um and for me that was always hard to really kind of understand because I'm one of those people who just wants to put her head down and work. But quarantine and like being forced to stop swimming for a little while and letting my body kind of heal, I guess. And then when we did get in the water, we couldn't train as much as we were used to. And I was going fast. I was going fast in practice. I was putting up times that I hadn't in years, and with like 3 months out of the water, and then like maybe an hour of swimming a day, and I was going this fast. And so it kind of sparked a conversation between me and my coach of like, oh, maybe we've been overtraining it. Like maybe we need to do more of a like super sprinter type of training. So we started doing that, and Energy Standard reached out, and we just kind of followed that training pattern all the way into Budapest. And then Budapest was the same situation. Like it was short. It was actually, I loved Budapest because you got to do your like pretty like chill aerobic training during the week. And then on the meet days was like your power training. So I had a great time for 6 weeks, and I think I swam really well. I think it definitely taught me a lot about ways I should be training. It gave me a lot of confidence because a lot of those people I'd raced in college and never really been super competitive with. And so to actually be, right with some of them, beating some of them, gave me like a huge confidence boost of like, yes, I do belong here. Because last year on LA Current, when I wasn't swimming well, I was like, I don't know about this, like this may be, too far out of my reach. But this year, like definitely um, made me believe that like I can race these people, and I had so much fun racing them. And I learned a ton just from watching and observing and talking to people from all over the world. So it was a great experience. I had a great time.
Thank you, and it's amazing to hear as an ISL official. Thank you.
Yeah.
But Madeline, this might be a question that you're not willing to answer, and that is perfectly fine.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to ask you this: did you feel at all any remorse for being on the Energy Standard roster for the past season? Let me explain why. You guys had three top level butterflies in your team, and you kind of always had to decide who's going to be the one sitting out on the pool deck. Probably, if you were a part of any other team, you would be the A pick for any butterfly events, any match. Did you feel like there was a little bit too much of butterfly talent on Energy Standard, and you wish you maybe it could swim more, or maybe join another team, or are you too sold on the team aspect of Energy Standard?
Yeah, definitely. No, not at all. I don't. No, I would not say at all. And there was not a point the whole trip that it crossed my mind of like, oh, I could be on a different team and be swimming every time. I fully trusted the coaches and what their plan was, and I think Anastasia and Sarah did too. I don't think there were any, but maybe one situation where they actually had to choose between like Sarah's back being injured or Anastasia being able to do the 2 IM. So we were always flip-flopping around. I would say there was like 1 or 2 times where they actually had to make a decision. And both of those times, everyone was cool with it. Everyone fully believed that whatever the coaches decided was what was best for the team. And we fully supported each other the whole time through any decision that was made. And I loved being on Energy Standard. I loved the team, and those 2 other fly girls, like I learned so much from them just from watching them competing next to them, like talking to them about their racing. And, I don't think I would have had that opportunity on another team. I might've gotten to race more, but I don't think I would have learned or made relationships like those 2 relationships I did. And so I was, everyone wants to swim more, but I was more than okay and fully trust the coaches to make the right lineups.
Totally fair. And the coaches did a great job. I mean,
They
James
did.
Gibson is one of the best analytics in the game, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Madeline, I don't know if you're aware, but ISL Season 3 format has been released.
I saw that, yes.
Beautiful. 10 prelim matches to decide 6 teams that automatically proceed to the playoffs, an additional 11 match to determine the last 2 teams for the playoffs, and 6 matches in the playoffs, which determine the 4 finalist teams and the final itself. 6 weeks, 3 weeks, 1 week, respectively. What do you think of this format?
I like it. I was probably one of the few that did not mind the bubble last year. But I was also, like a bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, like rookie who was just happy to be there. But I like the format. I think it'll be more, exciting and kind of keep things, at least for the athletes, like being there for 6 weeks and that being your whole season. That can be a lot all at once. And I think splitting it up into different kind of groups and time periods will not only like give the athletes a chance to, kind of take a break and go home, see family and friends. It'll also, kind of keep the ball rolling for longer. Because this year it was like 6 weeks, you're done. Like we'll think about it next year, which thankfully wasn't that far away. But I think with this format, like we'll get to, focus and get to train for it and, just enjoy the art of racing for even longer with that kind of format.
100%. Thank you. I'm glad you like it.
Yeah, I like it.
It should be amazing. It will be a good meet, and especially changing locations, maybe even throughout continents, should make it more comfortable for people all around the world.
Definitely.
Madeline, I'm going to go off on a tangent a little bit, but this is something I really want to know. Where does the nickname Maddog come from? Is it from the way you train? Is it from the way you compete?
Yeah. So I actually got that when I was really little, like probably 9 or 10, and I was doing YMCA swimming. And one of my best friend's dads actually just started calling me Mad Dog. Just because of how like I race, like I'm sure no one's ever seen like little Maddie in the pool. There's a couple of videos out there, but I am just flailing and I'm moving, like I'm going pretty fast, but I'm just flailing and attacking it. And I always went by Mad Dog, and it's always stuck. Like it's just kind of a nickname for me. I consider myself to be someone who like, knows what she wants and she's gonna do whatever she like needs to take it, and kind of having that doggedness. So yeah, it's just kind of a nickname I've always had. People still call me by it. But yeah.
I gotta say, that is an incredibly cool nickname. Belongs somewhere on the UFC fighter roster. I don't know. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Madeline, sort of learning a little bit about you before this podcast and previously for other podcasts. And by the way, you have an amazing website.
Oh, thank you.
But through it, I learned that you were suffering from depression and anxiety problems in 2016 and 2017.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just wondering sort of what was the route you took to get yourself out of it? Because I know from personal experience, it could be a trap that you could be in for years and years and years to come. Yet it seemed like you you're very successful in coming out of it. Let's speak the truth. And I wanted to hear a little bit, what are the tools you used and what were the strategies you employed?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, a little bit of my mental health journey, like I think it's interesting because it's usually like just recently have I started being asked to do like podcasts and talks and things like that. And they're always like, oh, you struggle with depression and anxiety, but like you're an American record holder and you're swimming well, you swim in the ISL and all that. And I think people who like don't know me or don't know my story, like don't realize that like I was in a very, very bad spot. Like in 2017, I was literally on death's door. Like, I got to a point where I just didn't want to be alive anymore. I was not happy with the person I'd become. I'd become a very angry person. And I went to see a therapist. I was cycling through medication and nothing was really working. And so I eventually just decided that I was going to end it all. And thankfully I didn't. My roommates actually got to me before I could do anything. But after that, I was kind of like, I scared myself, honestly. And to really get out of it, I was having a hard time putting my mental health first when I also had to juggle school and swim. So I actually dropped out of college, stopped swimming, and went to an inpatient treatment center for a month in 2017, which was a very interesting experience to say the least. It was very scary, but I also learned more about myself in that month than I have in my entire 22, at that point, 22 years of living. And so that was probably the best thing I could have ever done for my mental health. And, most people don't get to a point where they need to go to an inpatient treatment center, but I did get to that point. And, I learned there like different coping mechanisms, kind of how to, be gentle with myself, be kind with myself, and things I can do when I do get overwhelmed or I get into a bad spot. I call it my mental toolbox. So I have things in there that I do when, I'm having a rough day or I get really anxious. Things I actually do even in the pool or even in swimming. And so, yeah, that's basically what I did. And I came back, I started swimming again. My coaches were awesome about letting me, re-enroll in school and rejoin the team, which I'm very thankful for. And, it's just kind of been a roller coaster since then. Like mental illness is not one of those things that just like magically goes away. Like I still struggle with it to this day. But I definitely have a better handle on it, a better grip on it. And I learned a lot of things that, has helped me, kind of still succeed in life and in swimming. And, I'm to a place that I'm very proud of today. So I can definitely look back on those hard times and be humbled and very grateful of where I am today.
You should be. You should be very proud, and it makes total sense. I mean, look at you right now. But thank you so much for sharing. And
Yeah,
I think it also means a lot for people who are going through similar issues in swimming right now, and to hear that it's possible to get out of it and to succeed
Definitely.
after it. It's very important.
That's like one of my biggest messages is because I like to share my story. Like, that's what I want to do when I'm done swimming is just, share my story, create organizations for, athletes struggling with mental illnesses. And that's one of the biggest things is like, your swimming is what you do. It's not who you are. And I think that's really important for everyone to realize, that your success in swimming does not define your success as a human being. And I think there's just so many stories out there of people who have mental illness and have a hard time, healing from it or getting out of that bad spot. And, my heart goes out to them, and it's way more common than we think. But I also think people are like, oh, I'm struggling with this. Like, I'm never going to be an elite athlete. Like, if I step away from the water, like, I'll never be able to come back. I know that was a fear for a lot of people with COVID of like being able to get back in shape and be an elite athlete again when they were forced out of the water. But, I like to share my story because I'm like, you can do it. Like I've stopped swimming twice in my career and I'm here now today. And you come before your sport. Your mental health and your physical health always come before your sport. And that's just one thing that I like to get across.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Madeline, I kind of want to dig a little bit deeper on the relationship of swimming and depression.
Mm-hmm.
Is it okay if I ask you what got you sort of initially in this state of depression and anxiety? Moreover, not what exactly got it, but was swimming part of it?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that swimming was a part of what caused or triggered my depression and anxiety. I would say swimming for me was a very interesting situation regarding my mental health journey, because when I was at my lowest, which was my sophomore year, I actually became an SEC champion that year. Individually, I was theoretically swimming faster than I ever had. So my swimming was really good, but it's also a very interesting web because I wasn't training a lot then. Because just like struggling, like anyone who struggled with depression knows it's just like it's either a very overwhelming, aggressive feeling, or it's an absolutely numbing feeling and you don't feel anything at all. And it's just constantly like kind of an up and down of that all day. And going to practice for like 2 to 4 hours a day and having to deal with, a freezing cold pool and the pain of getting through a set, and your lungs are burning, your legs are burning, and like that was the last thing I wanted to feel when I was feeling terrible all day. And I wasn't eating, I wasn't sleeping, so I wasn't training a lot, which was also an interesting conversation when we discovered that I had been overtraining, because we looked back and we were like, oh, like the year you were an SEC champion, you weren't training, which was for a bad reason because, you were struggling, but interesting that you weren't training as much that year. And that's when you swam fast. But, yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say that swimming caused my depression. I think it added another layer of like, it was just another like brick that I had to deal with. Stone I had to roll over was like getting out of practice 5 in the morning, getting in the pool, going through the pain of that, going to lift. I think it just kind of added to the issues I was having, but definitely didn't necessarily cause them.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah. But also,
Right.
like when I was gone at treatment, swimming is what pulled, swimming's just that solid I had, that I was like when I'm done here, like I was a completely different person. I had a new outlook on life, but something that never ever faltered was my passion for swimming. So while it may have been causing me pain while I was going through like some hard times, it's exactly what I wanted when I came back. Like I wanted to swim. Like when I left treatment, I was like, I want to swim. Someone get me in the water, get me back on the team. I had a new motivation, a new passion, a new plan. And, so at the same time, while it felt like it was hurting me while I was going through it, it also pulled me through it and, still drives me today.
Makes sense. Thank you. I mean, yeah, that was a perfect answer, especially at the end, because I was about to ask you. I mean, a lot of people that don't even deal with depression and anxiety and just decide to finish with swimming, a lot of the time start dealing with depression and anxiety post their post career straight away in the following month or two. And I was just surprised that you were able to persevere not only through your issues from before, but also from quitting with swimming. I'm assuming when you did it, you assumed that this was it for you forever, right? In terms of
Mm-hmm.
professional swimming. I mean, wow. Um, maybe some people who are dealing with these sort of issues with and are depressed and swimming, maybe you should give it a break and see how it goes and then come back to it. It makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree. I mean, I stopped when I went to treatment for a month, and then I took 3 months off after NCAA as my senior year because I was done. I was like, I'm done. I'm going to be a normal college kid. I went on vacation, had fun, and I found myself being called back to the water. And that was more of a curiosity thing because I didn't swim well my last 2 years of college, like individually. And so I was like, if my best swimming was while I was mentally in my lowest point, like what could I do in the correct mindset? So I came back and started pro swimming, and then COVID stopped swimming again for like 3 months. I came back and swim, like every time I stop, I seem to get better. So that is a very like curious thing that I think a lot of people have started thinking about since COVID, is like how much training is too much, and is that I feel like overtraining is so normal in the world of swimming these days.
100% agrees, especially amongst little kids, right?
Yes.
Or teenagers. Yeah. But Madeline, please don't stop swimming for too long anytime soon. It'll be such a letdown for the fans.
I won't.
Thank you. Madeline, kind of bouncing off of that conversation, I wanted to ask you, you mentioned 2 times in your life that you think you're completely sort of quit with swimming. What motivates you in swimming now? Is it sort of, I've been talking to a bunch of athletes now, and I've kind of selected 4 categories people generally tend to fall into. It's people who are there for the thrill of competition. People are there with the intrinsic desire to win, to prove themselves. People with the just love for the sport, swimming as an activity. And then it's people who just enjoy the athlete lifestyle. They like the life of swimmers. Do you feel like you fall into one of these categories, or is it something completely out of the ordinary for you, or maybe a combination of all?
Yeah. I would say it's probably the first one you said, like just the competition. Anyone who knows me, I am just an aggressively competitive person. Um, and that I think the biggest thing for me is that feeling of reaching a goal, especially a big one. Like at the finale when I got the American record, like that feeling, which like I can still feel when I like think about it, is something that makes like all those practices worth it, and all the discipline and sacrifice you go through. It's kind of like a high, like people are, you like drink or take drugs or something to like you're chasing that high. It's kind of the same thing for like a swimmer. Like I will put my body through hell and back in the water every day just to chase that high of reaching a goal. That's like my best way to describe it. So just that. And I've always been big on the team atmosphere, like racing with Sarah, like having us like 1-2 an event, like that feeling's just as good as reaching a goal. And just uniting with the people around you that you're working together with is just, I love the atmosphere of that. And just the like pride you feel in being able to unite with a group of people towards one like common goal.
Makes sense. So basically, you kind of like the feeling of climbing on top of the mountain and then having a look from it, right?
Yes, although I
Makes
do hate
sense.
hiking. Fun fact.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yes.
Thanks, Madeline. Madeline, you mentioned you had sort of mental toolbox that you work with in and outside of the pool.
Mhm.
Can you please shed light on what is the psychological work you do outside of the pool?
Like what's in my toolbox, or like how I work on my mental health?
More towards the swimming part of it. So, what are the tools from your toolbox you use towards swimming, possibly outside of the swimming pool? So, in
Yeah.
between practices and stuff like that. And what are other strategies are you using to get better in swimming outside of the water?
Yeah, definitely. So something that's has given me a lot of confidence in the pool is when I'm at practice, I always pick at least one thing to do at 110%. Which, like it's ingrained in all of our brains, like everything you should do should be at 110%. You should always be giving your 110%. But I'm meaning like effort, like not necessarily like I'm always thinking about my technique. I'm always thinking about like how my feel in the water is, like what times I'm going, things like that. But I think if you are constantly being like, oh, I need to go 100% all out as fast as I can every single rep, one, that's like kind of scary to think about, like no one wants to do that for 2 hours. And two, I think it's really easy to dig yourself into a hole that way, because that's kind of the mindset I had for a while. So now my mindset when I go into practice is not everything has to be fast, not everything has to be 100%. I'm always trying to do 110% technique all the time. I'm always thinking about my technique, my turns, my underwaters, but the effort level is not always 110%. So when I do decide that I'm going to go all out, I do it. And that gives me a lot of confidence behind the block, because I think it's easy to get behind the block and be like, oh, maybe I haven't worked hard enough. Like, I don't know if I've been, training this race enough, or, you think about it and you're like, oh, that was so hard in practice. Like, it's not going to feel any better right now. And when I do those little things in practice, then I get behind the block and I'm like, all right, this is your 110% rep. Let's go. Let's do it. No matter what it feels like, you're giving your all. And I know that might sound like lazy to some people, but that's just really has been what works for me. And that's definitely one of the big things I do to help my racing. And I think another thing I do is I do this a lot. This is one of my like just day-to-day things kind of from my mental toolbox. But I get really anxious. I'm definitely like an overstimulated person, which is kind of funny because I am like the type of like bubbly hyper person that like overstimulates people. So when people hear that I get overstimulated, they're like, are you sure? You're the crazy one. But it's actually this grounding technique, and it's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So it's 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch. I usually switch those out. You can just kind of do whichever one you prefer. 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, 1 thing you can taste. And the idea of it is if you're getting really anxious, or I can feel a panic attack coming on, which, can happen if I'm at a meet and I'm very overwhelmed or anxious. It can happen in practice if we're doing, a set that I wasn't mentally prepared for or necessarily physically prepared for. If there's just too much going on around me, like I get really anxious, and if I feel a panic attack coming on, I can do that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 technique. And the idea of it is to kind of stimulate all your senses. And so you are forced to kind of be in touch with the present around you. And, it just kind of brings you back down to the ground. It makes it hard for your mind to kind of run wild and get crazy. And you can focus on your breathing while you're doing it. And it just really brings you back to the present. And that's one of the things that I probably do daily. That helps me a lot in the water and on land. And I would say in the water too, like I'm a big touch sensory person. And so it's honestly perfect for swimming because we're immersed in water all the time. And just being underwater, what can really calm me down because, there's no sounds. It's calm. Like you can just feel the water around you, just the tranquility. And it's just kind of you and your own heartbeat. And that really brings me a lot of peace if I'm overwhelmed. So yeah, I would say those are like my top 3 kind of psychological things I do swimming wise.
Makes sense. Thank you. And I particularly like the sort of focus on a certain thing during practice and don't try to focus on the entirety of it, because what some people don't understand is that the brain has resources also. You can't physically focus for 2 hours straight. It's just not possible.
Yeah.
Makes perfect sense.
It's amazing how much, like, if you, like, I think there's just such in swimming and in sports in general, there's such like this tough guy, to work hard, you have to always be like pushing yourself to like the brink of passing out. Like there's just such that stigma. And I'm like, you can work hard without, being physical all the time. Like my swimming has gotten so much better once I rewired some of that, like go, 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 energy into like, okay, how exactly are my fingertips entering the water? Like, what are my hips doing at this part of the stroke? Like how deep am I landing in my fly stroke? Like once you start paying attention to those little things, instead of just muscling for 2 hours, you'd be surprised how much better you can get.
100%. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm assuming this also applies to your amazing underwaters.
Oh yeah. Big underwater girl.
Thank you. Madeline, this is the time of the podcast we sort of switch from my questions to some of the fan questions. And then we'll finish off the podcast with a small blitz from the fan questions, if you don't mind.
Yeah, definitely.
So one of our fans wants to know, Madeline, what is your sleep schedule like? And do you suffer from insomnia prior to a meet?
Yeah. So I actually have suffered from insomnia for many years now, and I actually do take prescription sleep medicine for it. All legal. Don't worry. But I sleep it used to be a big issue for me. at the beginning years of college, I was running on maybe 2 or 3 hours of sleep a night, which definitely did not help the mental health situation. But since I kind of got it under control, right now, kind of since COVID, our swim practices have been around 8:45 in the morning. And then there's a later one in the evening, usually between like, it either starts at 5 or at 6. And I will get in bed every night, at least by 10, sometimes earlier. And I put my phone down at 11. And I'm out in like 2 minutes. So that's kind of my sleep schedule. I used to not care about my sleep at all. And then once I started, kind of paying attention to it and, making sure I got at least 8 hours of sleep a night. You can ask my teammates, when I don't get at least 7 hours of sleep a night, I am a disaster at practice. I can truly feel, and I will feel it for days if I miss a night of sleep. So sleep is very, very important to me. It's one of the biggest things that I focus on recovery wise from swimming.
Thank you, Madeline. And any tips on battling insomnia outside of, winding down and putting your phone away at 11, getting to bed at 10? Obviously, the legal medications. What else?
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the big things that helped me for a while with sleeping was meditating, which sounds weird because you're like thinking while you're meditating, but there are some good apps out there. Like, I think the one I used to use was called Calm, and it'll kind of take you through like a meditating breathing exercise. Which I think if you are having insomnia, a lot of times that stems from anxiety. And so, like focusing on your breathing and kind of clearing your mind before you go to bed can really help. Putting your phone down can really help. Drinking some tea can help. Just things like that to try to really like start to relax you. I don't know, for me, one of my issues was I was just a big thinker when I needed to go to sleep. I couldn't shut my mind off. So the meditating and breathing really helped me kind of, shut my mind off for the night before I went to sleep.
Thank you. Makes sense. Yeah, meditating is another big one. Assuming you didn't fall asleep during the meditation, but I'm assuming this is what you're kind of aiming for at the first place. So that's not
your phone will turn off. Just plug it in before you start.
Fair enough. Madeline, another one of our fans wants to know, how clean do you eat? Do you follow a particular diet? And what is your favorite cheat snack?
My favorite cheat snack. Oh, so I try to follow a clean. I'm very good during the week. I will say that. I'm very good during the week. I have like eggs and avocado toast and yogurt every morning with cheese. That's my go-to, and coffee. The evening or the afternoons, I usually have some sort of meat and cheese sandwich and some crackers and some more fruit. And then at night, it kind of usually varies, but always a protein, a vegetable, and a carb. And then at night, I have like this protein milkshake type thing. So that's usually my go-to eating. I will never, ever say no to pizza or burgers, ever. It doesn't matter what day of the week it is. I will not say no to it. But I love pizza and burgers. I love sushi. I'm a big cheesecake girl, which thankfully cheesecake isn't huge here in the South Knoxville area. So it's kind of a little difficult to find. Yeah, I think that if you only eat clean, then it's going to be really hard to, I think it's hard to say no to the sweets every once in a while. I don't know if you've ever heard of like the 80-20 rule, but like 80% clean, 20% whatever you want. It's a healthy relationship with food. It's going to keep you mentally happy than just eating like greens and rice all day. So that's kind of what I try to follow.
Makes perfect sense. Thank you, Madeline. Yeah. And with that, let's move to our Blitz, if you don't mind.
Oh, yeah.
So I have somewhere close to 10 questions from our fans. These questions don't require a sophisticated answer. You can make it as long as you want or as short as a yes or no.
Okay.
Perfect. Here we go. And I feel like this is the first question. It's just perfect. Do you have a pet?
Yes.
Is it a dog?
Yes, she's a border collie named Remy.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
What is your average yardage in a day of training? when you have a single and when you have a double?
Yeah, so my average yardage, if I have a single, is usually between, I would say 35 and 45. And if I have a double, it'll like both practices will be about that. Sometimes it's in the 2000s if we're doing like a power rack type of practice, but usually between 35 and 45.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Who is the best currently active swimmer in your opinion?
Currently active swimmer? Ooh. Well, I'm going to hurt my teammates' feelings, but probably Sarah. But she's still active, right? She's swimming. I've seen videos.
Yeah, of course she is.
Yeah. If
No,
anyone is,
100%.
it's Sarah. Yeah.
It's an interesting answer. Sarah's an amazing swimmer, but it's a first I'm hearing. Usually people answer either Adam Peaty, either Katie Ledecky, because of the sheer dominance of these two in their respective events, or obviously Caleb Dressel gets thrown into the mix.
Obviously Caleb. Yeah. I mean, Caleb's great. My mind just automatically goes to women because I'm a girl swimmer, but
Makes sense.
Yeah. And
Madeline, what is your own personal preference? Long course meters, short course meters, or yards?
short course yards, for sure.
Fair enough. What is your favorite event to swim?
The 50 fly, short course meters.
What is your favorite event to spectate?
Ooh, probably IMs. Any IM.
Fair
I feel like
enough.
they're just so up in the air, like anything can happen.
I agree with you on this one. It's very strategical also. It's cool to see.
Oh yeah, it's crazy to watch.
How old were you when you started swimming?
I was 9. Yes, 9 or 10.
Did you have a childhood idol? And if you did, who was it?
I didn't really. I know that's a question everyone always asks, but I wasn't big into the idols. And I started swimming so late, I didn't really have any, so I don't have a good answer for that.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I didn't have an idol either. Madeline, what is your favorite sport to participate in, counting out swimming?
Outside of swimming? Ooh, wow. I was a marching band nerd in high school. So if you count that as a sport, then we're going to go with that.
Oh, wow, that's a first. No, 100%. It's actually very physically demanding as far as I know.
It was. Hey, and it was great for swimming too, because you had to like hold up that instrument for hours, and it was great for your deltoids. Like, it was fun.
Wow, thank you.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But I cycle these days, so I'm going to put that as a close second.
What about your favorite sport to spectate outside of swimming?
Football. I love football. American football.
American football. Okay.
Yeah.
Any favorite teams?
Obviously my college team, which is they're terrible, but still, I'm more of a college football girl.
Yeah, I used to go to Cal. I can understand the pain of a not very strong football team.
You can.
Thank you, Madeline. What about your college major? What was your college major?
It was kinesiology.
Are you thinking to use that after your swimming career?
I don't know. The issue with that major, which I didn't realize when I majored in it, was you usually have to go to grad school. And I'm not going to lie, I'm a pretty bad student. And I don't learn great in a like school setting. So I don't know. I don't know if I'll do anything with it. I think I'm going to focus more towards the mental health field. So we'll see.
Ex-psych major ran into the same difficulties. The grad school is the issue.
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
And for our final question of the Blitz portion, what is your favorite team logo in uniform, counting out energy standard?
Counting out energy standard? I really like the Tokyo frogs. That's so cool. The lime color is so cool. It's just a great, and I really like that team. Their vibes seem cool, and their little hop they do when they walk out was just so cute. So I'm going to have to go with them.
Madeline, you set me up perfectly for the remaining 2 questions on this podcast. And number 1 is, when is Energy Standard going to come up with their own sort of signature sign?
Oh, no. We had such a hard time. We can't all agree what to do. And there's not really we don't really have a mascot. It's just kind of that weird ES type of situation logo. So maybe next year we'll like actually come up with a good one that you guys can like replicate while you're cheering for us.
You guys
We'll
need
work on
one
that.
for sure. You
Yeah,
can.
I will email James as soon as we're done with this and be like, listen, put it on the list for next year. We're doing a little hand sign.
Thank you, Madeline. Thank you. At least someone takes responsibility for it because come on.
Yes, I got it. You guys can hold me accountable if we don't have something next year.
I'm not trying to imply anything, but the winning team, Cali Condors, had a sign this year, and you guys didn't. It could have been the deciding factor. Who knows?
You never know. You never know.
Thank you, Madeline.
Yeah.
And sort of for the remaining time, I wanted to ask you, do you have any final words for this podcast to your personal fans, to just people watching this podcast, or to the fans of Energy Standard?
Yeah. I guess, I just thank everyone, whether you're a fan of mine or a fan of Energy Standards or a fan of the ISL, for your support. We couldn't be doing this without the fans, and hopefully this can only grow further because of you guys. So, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for supporting us. It means a lot to us, and we'd like to give back in any way we can.
Thank you. And ladies and gentlemen, this was Madeline Banic for you. Maddie, thank you so much once again for making it to this podcast. It means a lot to us.
Yes, of course.
And to everyone watching, our next podcast will happen this Sunday. Please tune in, and thank you for tuning in for this one.